Well, good morning, everyone. I'm sure that a lot of people have seen this building or seen it displayed. But I want to show it again in a different way because it's the termites that are connected with it that have chased me around the world, and it's getting a bit out of hand. Now, I just want to talk about termites for about 5 minutes, okay? In Zimbabwe, under the ground, it's all termites, wherever you go. There are two types of termite mound, and they're actually lungs, they're breathing systems. The image on your left is actually a closed system. It's a sealed one, and it's a mound. The one on the right is a tower, which is open. When I built Eastgate, I was looking at the one on the right, in other words, the tower with the hole in the top. The one on the left was thought of as a sealed membrane system with a porous surface. That's all changed now because biology's moved on, and there have been some amazing experiments. The one on the right is still in doubt. The jury's out on it. Now, there's a marvelous lot of stuff on the web which you can look at about some experiments that have been going on in Namibia. And I want to look at them very quickly. The lung idea, this sealed mound, it turns out works exactly like our lungs. The only thing is that instead of muscles pushing the lung in and out, it's actually the air. It's turbulent air that moves around the cone. But it has three departments. It has, it has the top, it has the sort of the beginning section of membrane, and the middle section, and the lower section. And it works, you get all sorts of medical terms. Now this was discovered by somebody who studies medicine. And I'm getting increasingly interested in the crossing of fields. I think that most of my innovation certainly comes from when I take something from one field that seems completely unrelated to another, like termites and office blocks, and I join them. And then something happens. Out of that evolves a new idea. And this happens in many fields. Now, just look at this. This is an experiment in Namibia. They filled one of these termite mounds with gypsum and then blasted off the mud. And this is what they got on the surface. And it opens up a new idea of how to form the facade of a building that breathes. And it's called, it's a whole process of air moving in and becoming ordered by by smaller voids becoming larger and larger and joining up. So by the time the air gets into the middle, it's ordered, it's orderly. It's no longer in chaos. It's an ordered system. And that's very much like the membrane that surrounds our lung and the way it works. Anyway, that was fascinating. Now, because of this, this guy called Scott Turner, the physiologist in Namibia, said, but Mick copied the termite mound the way he thought it worked, but it doesn't work like that. So I've been looking now, and I take my dogs for a walk every morning on the golf course, and we look at these termite mounds, and I measure them. Now, the one that I'm talking about is the open one. Now, one of the things Scott said was, you must think of it not as an object. Now, architects are always looking at things as objects. You must look at it as a process. It's actually an earth fountain, because the termites are taking material and moving it up, and it's always growing. It's growing, and it's always changing, because the rain comes and it washes things up down, and it melts, and then they rebuild it. So it's a continuous process. Now, the other thing is that they're building it on a very simple algorithm, and that is that every pellet of mud is saturated with a pheromone, which is like a chemical smell, if you like. And they place it where the smell is strongest. And this pheromone actually evaporates. So what's happening? What is the template to which they're building? What is the blueprint? It's actually the wind. It's air movement and the sun. So what the form you're getting is actually formed by the wind. And it's perfectly obvious. They can't build where the wind is evaporating the stuff most. They can only build where it's sheltered. And so this is how this form develops. So it's, in other words, it's not form follows function, it's form follows process. And that's what interests me. And at night, the air movement is actually vertical, because at night in Zimbabwe, the difference between the day and the night temperatures are greatest. So you get an updraft only, and then they can work all around. So the cylinder becomes symmetrical. And during the day, the wind changes, and it becomes asymmetrical. So in other words, you've got a building that's built to the wind. And these are just more pictures of the same thing. Now, take this and place it next to Vitruvius. Vitruvius' sketch of what he thought was the first building. And the first building was about energy, was about the fire. People built the fire. And that brought humanity together and created society, according to Vitruvius. The shape of that, now imagine those people crowding around the fire and it's cold, and they find a position from the fire which is optimal, which is where they're warmest. They get a bit further back, they're a bit cold, bit too close, they get too hot. And then imagine more and more people come, and they stand on their shoulders, and so on, and so on. What shape do you get? You get this, the thing on the left. So in other words, it's interesting that the termites are actually building to a template which is created by air movement. Okay, switch to Angola, and you find posts standing outside villages with termites on them, building nests. They scrape the mud off these and use that for plastering, because it has in it the spittle, the remains of the pheromone, presumably, which makes a bonding agent. Anyway, back to Eastgate. So Eastgate was really based on my primitive, rather simplistic idea of how termite mound worked. It's getting a bit more sophisticated now, and I'm beginning to understand more about it. But basically, it was about through draft. It was about how using night air as the cooling system, because we have a 10-degree variation in a diurnal variation, seemed to work very well. And we just have two fan speeds. We have a day's fan's speed of 2 air changes, and a night one of 10 air changes. We push air through the building at a much faster rate. That cools down the structure, and we use the structures as a thermal sink, which you all know. Now, the other thing I want to say is in the shape of the chimney. I didn't know anything about the termites and the way they built the chimneys before, so it's rather simplistic shape. Today, it would be much more complicated. And then with the air flows underneath the floors, where it is caught, or the couth is caught with these teeth, and that's the thermal storage system. I think today I do it slightly differently, and the lighting system was very primitive in those days. We have a much more sophisticated lights now with LEDs. So things have changed. But the other thing that I don't think would change, and I noticed a new building going up in Cape Town, which is glass, in this climate is crazy. It really is. Take this cactus. It knows how to get rid of heat. A smooth building will absorb much more heat in a solar environment and be much less efficient at disposing of it than a prickly building. And that's why Eastgate works without any other form of intervention. It just is much cooler because of its surface area. And certainly the plants seem to help a lot. So you can have plants, and I've now at last seen a peregrine eagle settling on one of the ledges and nesting. So we've got everything now. We've got another box to tick. So it is just 2 office blocks around a street. Now the other thing that's happened is that this street is quite interesting. It's been very useful for defense because we've run 2 elections, and Morgan Tsvangirai, the leader of the opposition, occupied my partner's office for 2 elections, and it's been very easy to defend them. And it's rather like the prison I'm staying in here with a central atrium. Very easy to defend for people in the street below. But the other thing is that covering a street with what the functions you normally put inside a building, like the corridors and the cores, hang them over the street, and you've got a public realm which extends vertically. And it's turned out to be a great boom. Apart from anything else, we never paid for the street. It was not part of the land deal. It belonged to the council, and we got that for nothing. So efficiency-wise, it's turned out to be a great boom, as well as removing from the offices areas, volumes which we didn't have to ventilate, and so on. That's all I really want to say about Eastgate.